This is the theme to the podcast. It's inspired by an old TV theme, one of the best I'd ever seen. So here it is, the theme to the podcast. What does Chris think?
About his favorite movie, Part 2. Like I said before, it's a hard question to answer, but here we are. The last episode I talked about Mr. Blandings Builds His Dream House and The Matrix, two films that will always be on my list. Today, I'm going to give you three more. Reviewing Man on the Moon is a bit like trying to review a magic trick where the magician might actually be having a breakdown mid-act. It's a fascinating, uncomfortable, and deeply perceptive look at Andy Kaufman. But the real story isn't just on the screen. It's what happened behind the scenes with Jim Carrey. Carrey didn't just play Kaufman. He basically invited a squatter into his psyche for the duration of the shoot. There's that documentary, Jim and Andy, which shows how much of a nightmare he was for the people who actually knew and loved the real Andy. You had individuals like Bob Zmuda, Andy's best friend and co-conspirator, and George Shapiro, his manager, on set regularly, and they were essentially forced to interact with a ghost. People who met both men said Carrey's channeling of Tony Clifton, Andy's abrasive lounge singer alter ego, was so accurate it was actually triggering for them. It wasn't acting in the traditional sense. It was a psychological siege. While the film captures the chaos, it also manages to find the quiet heart of the man who is terrified of being ordinary. It balances the public pranks and the private reality of a guy who just wanted to see how far he could push the joke before it broke. If the movie fails anywhere, it's in the slightly polished Hollywood ending. Kaufman's life was a much messier and more confusing than a 2-hour biopic can fully hold. But seeing Carrey's total commitment makes you forgive the structural shortcuts. Now, if Man on the Moon is about the masks we wear, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind is about the stuff we try to bury underneath them. It's probably the most honest movie ever made about how much it hurts to be human. It's easy to dismiss it as a high-concept science fiction movie, but that's missing the point. Technology is just the delivery system for a very grounded truth. We are all the sum of our mistakes, and trying to delete those painful parts only makes us less ourselves. The movie operates on a level of openness and honesty regarding heartbreak. It doesn't force us to sit through therapy sessions while pretentious psychiatrists drone on. It uses the messy, illogical language of a dying relationship. The way the world literally falls apart, houses disappearing into the sea, faces blurring. It's a perfect analogy of how our memory actually fades. It's smart without being arrogant about its own cleverness. Putting Jim Carrey in a role where he has to be the straight man to Kate Winslet's chaotic energy was a stroke of genius. It stripped away the funny man persona and left something that is incredibly vulnerable. This movie didn't invent the reality as a lie trope, but it perfected the emotional application of it. You can see its DNA in a few other places. Vanilla Sky in 2001, this movie covers similar ground regarding the blurring of dreams and reality, but it often gets lost in its own posturing. Where Vanilla Sky tries to be cool, Eternal Sunshine is content to be sad and real. In 98, we have The Truman Show. This is the spiritual precursor. It's another film where Carrey realizes the world is just a construct. But while Truman is about escaping a physical cage, Eternal Sunshine is about escaping and then desperately trying to stay in a mental one. Now, here's the kicker. The movie ends on a note that is both cynical and incredibly hopeful. They know it's going to end badly again, and they say, okay, anyway. That's the most honest to a fault moment in the cinema. It's a reminder that the pain of memory is a small price to pay for the fact that it all happened at all. If you've seen the next film, you'll see a pattern in this episode. The beauty of Usual Suspects isn't actually the gotcha moment everyone talks about. It's the realization that you were willing to be an accomplice in the lie the entire time. Its narrative respects the audience just enough to let them think they're ahead of the curve, right until the floor drops out. Now, to be fair, the movie succeeds because it understands that people are naturally inclined to look for patterns where none exist. We want the story to make sense, so we ignore the small inconsistencies in favor of the big, more dramatic picture. Christopher McGuire wrote a script that treats the truth like a shell game. And then Bryan Singer directed it with a kind of clinical precision that makes the eventual payoff feel earned rather than cheap. It's rare to find a film that executes a pivot so cleanly that you immediately want to start over from the beginning and see exactly where you missed a handoff. There's a specific kind of alchemy that happens when the production loses control in just the right way. Take the iconic police lineup scene, the one that ended up on all the posters. On paper, that was supposed to be a serious, tense moment of dramatic exposition. But the actors couldn't stop laughing. Apparently, because Benicio del Toro couldn't stop passing gas. Though the stories vary depending on who you ask, and they eventually just started riffing. Instead of a stiff procedural beat, we got a glimpse into the chaotic chemistry of a crew that clearly shouldn't be trusted with a toaster, let alone $1 million heist. It's the perfect example of how a mistake can become the soul of a movie. If they had played that straight, the characters would have felt like archetypes, because they played it like a bunch of idiots having a laugh at the cops. They felt like people. Now, looking at some movies that followed, you can see the suspect's DNA everywhere. It paved the way for a specific brand of unreliable narrator cinema that we almost take for granted now. Like in 2000's Memento, Christopher Nolan took the concept of a fractured narrative and turned it into a puzzle box. While the mechanics are different, the core intent is the same, making the viewer question every piece of information they're given. The Sixth Sense in 1999, M. Night Shyamalan essentially built a career on structural foundation laid here. It's about the art of rewatch, creating a film that transforms into a completely different story once you have the final piece of the puzzle. Most movies try to surprise you. The Usual Suspects, however, tries to deceive you. There's a subtle but important difference. One is a party trick. The other is a character study. It works because it highlights the fundamental human flaw. We see what we expect to see. And honestly, watching a movie that is smarter than you are is a lot more fun than watching one that's just trying to be loud. Now, there's 5 films down. And you're asking yourself, how many more favorite movies does this guy have? Well, stick around. We'll find out together. But for now, I'm Chris, and this is what I thought.